Greetings, dear participant. Hope you all are doing well. My name is Preeti Davle and I'm from Zambia. I thank SGF Platform and Rambabu sir for letting me to host the session number 4 today. I welcome you all today to attend yet another insightful session. Without further ado, let us all welcome Coach Edward Gordon. I'm handing over platform to you, Coach. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Coach Preeti Davle, for the introduction, and thank you for facilitating and hosting this particular session. And again, thank you, Coach Ramabu from sharEvery Global Foundation for this partnership. And I'm excited to be able to continue. In the previous sessions, we talked about vision, mission, core values. We talked about stakeholders, data, as well as goals. All of this, I want you to continue to have your notes available and accessible, because this is going to continuously be the foundational pieces for every topic that we talk about over these next 20 plus weeks. So I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to be able to bring up an opportunity to talk about a new concept for today. A school leader understands how to analyze multiple sources of data about current practice before developing or revising the mission, vision, and goals. The school leader selects appropriate school goals that are aligned with district goals and based on data. The school leader evaluates if the current mission, vision, and goals are appropriate. As you start to think about this concept, okay, because I do want one person to unmute themselves and start to share with me how they would do this and what they believe this means. But one thing I want to clarify, because we have different educational systems, it's about district goals. Again, you're all going to be in the mindset of being school leaders, and that's the mindset that I want you to think about. You are leading schools. It doesn't matter what coaching practice you have now or profession you're working in, but right now I want you all to be thinking in the lens of our school leaders. In our U.S. educational system, as a school leader, your school is in a district with there's other schools, other elementary schools, other middle schools, high schools. It makes the school district. What this is saying in terms of the A part, I just wanted to clarify it, is that when you design a goal for your school, it needs to be aligned to what the district goal is. It might be a different structure that you are used to in Zambia as well as in India and so forth. But I want you to understand this type of principle that when you have various schools and you're one of those school leaders, your goal has to be aligned to the overall goal of that particular district. So just an example, if the district goal is that 97% of the students will come to school every day, that's the average daily attendance, you as the school leader cannot have a goal that for the year that 90% of the students will come to school every day. It has to align to what's happening in the district level, or it can be a higher number. That's fine as well, but it cannot be less than what the district, the overall organization's goal is for that particular area. Tell me, how would they do this? What does this mean?
At the beginning of the academic year. So we need to introspect whether the steps that we have taken in the case of mission, vision, and goals that was happened in the last year, whether the things that we done happened exact or not, whether we reached our goals or not, whether we are in the direction of the vision or not, whether the mission or the steps that we have taken were fulfilled to get these to reach the goals or not. So that we have to introspect. All the team of the school has to introspect at the beginning of the academic year, and then they have to find out the faults that were happened in the previous year, and they have to again analyze what are the next steps that we have to take, what are the new goals that we have to set up for the to overcome all the defects or something that we didn't reach in the last year. What are the other steps that we have to take, and what are the new goals that we have to set up? Whether we are the students, I mean, it may be in the case of attendance of a student, whether it may be related to the curriculum, whether it may be related to the execution of the curriculum, and whether it may related to the satisfaction of the parent. So all these things we have to analyze whether it has to happen, or we have to take feedback from every teacher and suggestions from every teacher of the organization, and then based on that we have to frame or design a plan, academic plan, year annual plan. So, and then this annual plan has to be modulated into several parts, and what are the curriculum that has to finish during that period, and what are the assessment tools that we have to use during this period. And there, at the same time, we need to analyze whether these two new steps are also during the course of this total year, whether the steps that are followed during this current session is happening, is it going, whether the process is going in a way or not. That everything has to be analyzed. Analyzation is more important before the execution, but this analyzation, everyone must be responsible, and the leader has to give responsibility for every teacher or every stakeholder of the education system. Thank you very much, sir.
Did a very good understanding of this particular concept. And when we talk about understanding how to analyze multiple sources of data, I want all of us to understand that we talked about these multiple sources of data. Yes. They are surveys, the focus groups, the interviews, our academic data in reference to how the students are performing in literacy, in math, and history, and science, how they're doing on the quizzes, their tests, the unit tests, the midterm exams, how they're doing in terms of discipline, office referrals, suspensions, how they're doing in terms of attendance, staff attendance, student attendance. All of these various data sources from the community, from your parents, all this information, that is what they're talking about in terms of the multiple sources of data. And like Coach Janet Karam was saying, you got to do this at the beginning of the year to be able to see exactly how well you're performing the year before and where you have to go this upcoming year. You're able to see your strengths and also your areas of improvement. And this is something that should be happening every year, but also if you were a new school leader coming into the situation, this is all the data that you will need to look at as a new school leader to be able to identify where your school is at this period of time. The other piece of it is that once you have this information, you're able to establish goals for your school. Goals around academics, goals around discipline and culture, goals around your attendance for your students and your staff, goals around your interaction and involvement with the community. you can only do that if you have the data for to set your goals about where you are right now to where you want to go. And then the other piece of it is when you have this information, you're going to evaluate if the current mission, vision, and goals are appropriate. You're coming into a school, okay, even if you were in the school for a couple of years, based on the data, is where we want to go and where we see our students still the same, okay? How we are doing it, the courses that we have in place, the activities that we have in place, are they still getting us the benefit of getting us closer to the vision of where we're going? Are the goals that we set forth in the past, are they still appropriate? Are they still relevant? And that is really key at this period of time based on this concept. Thank you very much, Coach Jana Karam, for explaining this. And I just wanted to add those pieces to it in reference to the fact that we just don't want to say multiple sources of data. Now all of you can name those data pieces. What is the data that you'll be using? And now you're able to clearly state surveys, focus groups, interviews, attendance data for staff and students, academic data for literacy, math, social studies, and science, tests, quizzes, benchmark exams, midterm exams. All that is data. You want them to be able to name it, okay? Because when you're able to name it as coaches, the leaders and schools are able to name it, they are going to be able to remember it and actually use it and not leave any data pieces out. So very good explanation and very good understanding of this particular concept. And I hope that you, as well as others, start to see how we laid that foundation of those 6 components and how it starts working in these other components as well. So very good job. And you can put thumbs up if you're clear before we jump back into another concept. But I want to make sure that everybody understands what was explained around that concept. How are we feeling? A school leader understands how to implement a vision and goals that reflect core values and are created with challenging and measurable expectations for all students and educators. The school leader determines if the expectations are measurable, rigorous, and connected to the vision and goals. The school leader develops goals that are specific, measurable, attainable, results-driven, and time-bound. You see how that SMART acronym comes into this that we talked about before? And then C, the school leader identifies resources for developing the mission, vision, and goals. What does this concept mean to you? You know, you're putting yourself in the mindset, you are that school leader.
This is the part of implementation of vision and mission, so that the field meets the criteria about challenges, vision and mission goals, especially for goals for academic goals, and it determines expectations that would be measurable. It should be measurable, and sometimes it may be rigorous. Even rigorous, we must expect. So here we establish clear expectations. This is the part of implementation, according to the one of the responsibility of a school leaders. And that should be expectations that should be measurable and specific, and it should be also attainable and results driven. So results driven is very important, because that results driven will show how much we achieve and how our vision goes, and how much of mission well we did the things, and how the core values are reflected. That's results driven is very important in this time bound. According to the school leader, the must first and foremost quality is time bound. So the another one, it identifies the resources. So developing the mission and vision and goals. So these resources will be helpful to achieve our mission, vision, and goals. So mission and vision shows that immediate goals like objectives, and these will be to developing these things to achieve the goals. We need resources. So in this manner, in this topic, that is, this is an implementation part, and it is a reflected core values, and it is a challenging part. Especially implementation is a very challenging part, and for the expectations for students and educators, both. And these are determines goals that should be specific, measurable, attainable, and results driven and and that's it's happened. This is showing all these things. Get A, B, C.
Very good, very good. Round of
Thank you.
applause for the courage to come out here and really share that. And this is good information. And before I, dive into a little bit deeper of this, Coach, I have a question for you in reference to resources. It says here, identified resources for developing the mission, vision, and goals. How are you defining resources, Coach?
Resources means here, to the best of my knowledge, academic resources means textbooks and laptops, each and everything that your apparatus. Next, uh, internet, internet facility, and each and everything. According to my school is this saying. These are already everything is inbuilt with ambition skills. I know it very well. But according to resources means all these things.
Thank you. I definitely understand what you're saying about resources being those materials, those supplies to actually get things done. So one thing I want to encourage all of us, to think about the word this resources, not only limiting ourselves to these supplies in terms of curriculum, but also resources. Many times when we think about resources, we think about money, okay, the finances and money to get what we need to be able to do what we are set forth in terms of our vision, mission, and achieve our goals. But also resources, it can be the teachers, the staff to actually do what we want to do. And another way of resources is what we talked about. Data is a resource, okay, because it's giving us information to be able to set forth our vision and missions and also plan our goals. So even though we have this word resources, I wanted to be able to share various lenses of that word resources, and that's going to be a help us to get a better picture. I know that there's a lot of information that's happening very fast, okay, and I'm going to take these little pauses every time that we go over these concepts for opportunity if there's any further questions about the concept before we continue to move on. So I'm going to pause right now. Is there any questions about what we've just mentioned?
Are the goals specific every time or changes? Specific or variable goals are.
You might set forth a goal that you think that you're going to accomplish by June 15th of the year. But if you accomplish it in November of the year, then it's an opportunity for you, like you said, it's variable. You change it, you up it, okay? Make it more challenging and move to the next level. Also, on the other side of it is, if you have a goal for the end of the year, we're saying by June 15th of 2025 and so forth, and as based on the action steps that you put in place, you need to evaluate, is this working? Is this helping us get closer to achieving our goal? Are we doing what we said that we're doing with fidelity? Is everybody on board? Is everybody doing it? So you definitely have to look at the goal in place. And like you said, it is variable. Sometimes the variable is that the goal is changed. And sometimes the variable is the fact that how we're doing it needs to be changed, okay, as well. Okay, so that is very good.
What about the vision, sir?
Good question. Very good. But you will, based on the data, the information that you set, help to formulate a vision for your organization, for your school. There might be some things that will change your vision. Okay, so many of our schools have set forth a vision when they opened up the school many years ago, 10, 15, 20 years ago. And sometimes I would challenge that. Is that vision still relevant? Okay, our students have changed, our society has changed, our world has changed. I think that we have to look at that and make adjustments to the vision. If our schools are still operating the same way they did before COVID, I think there's a challenge. I think COVID opened up the doors to the different ways of educating our students. Yes, our vision does change based on some things that are happening. And that's why the previous concept was talking about based on the data that we have, is it still relevant? Is our vision still relevant? Is our mission still relevant? Are our goals still relevant? So yes, there are situations that our vision for our schools and our organization will change based on everything else that's happening.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
No problem. Our educational systems and how they're organized. So I'm going to share a little bit about the United States, and I want someone to share with me because it's a learning experience for me. I want to learn how it is in Zambia. I want to learn how it is in India, and so forth. But in the United States, we have federal policies, and we say federal, that is the U.S. government. Okay, United States educational system. They have policies of how you need to run your schools. Then each state, okay, where I live in the state of New Jersey. The New Jersey Education Department has policies of what should be in schools. And then based on the town or the community or the city that you live in the state of New Jersey, there are local policies, okay? And I live in a town called Avenel. So the Avenel School District has policies. And it is important that when you set forth a vision and your goals, that they all are aligned, okay? From what your local government is saying to what the state is saying and what the federal policies are saying. So let me just give you an example of this, and then we'll open it up to hear how this works in other countries. For the federal policies in the United States, you cannot have a school that is not handicap accessible. You need to have elevators in place. You need to have entrances that are wheelchair accessible for students that have disabilities. That's a federal policy, okay? In terms of the a particular state policy, a state of New Jersey requires that we have 180 school days per year, okay? So you cannot have a school in New Jersey and say you want to have school only 60 days per year. That's a violation of the state policy. A local policy for the Avenel School District might be the fact that every classroom door must have a window pane that's 1 foot by 2 feet, so that when you're in the building, you can see what's happening in the classroom for the student safety. Those are like policies. And what I want to say is that these federal policies, the U.S. government, the state policy for state of New Jersey, for example, and the local policies for Avenel School District, you cannot do something within your school building that violates, okay, that is against these various policies. I do want to learn, how does it work in Zambia? How does it work in India? Is this a similar type of a concept or not? I'm interested to learn right now.
According to the best of my knowledge, before us answer, most of the US schools, I think I've seen somewhere, that is, where every school's vision is same. Mission is also same because they are similar and symmetrical. So that is, one vision is always make the school as a number one school or a top one school in the school district. Whereas mission is, every school's mission is to help the student to succeed in the classroom and beyond, and preparing them to college career. Every school leader should see use vision and mission as their weapons means like weights to reach the goals.
All right. Thank you, Coach. Coach Preeti Davli, I know that you had your hand up. I'm interested in terms of how it's done. It's similar in Zambia.
Thank you, Coach. As if now in Zambia, they are most focused on technical knowledge, and they have three kind of education. Like, it is not totally government education. So they do have government education, that is public schooling, then private schooling and international schooling as well. For public schooling, yes, they have the government mission where they are focusing on technical and sports activity. Wherein in private, definitely it is academic based, and also they elaborate more on sports, because Zambia does very well in world sports. So they don't want to miss on that. So mostly they have quite a active kind of life for students. And certainly, like the international, they have the international standard like IGSE board and all the stuff. So that's how it is. Obviously, the mission is to cope up with public school. They have to cope up with the world class learning or teaching.
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm understanding it correctly, Coach Preeti. With these various educational systems, they
Yes.
have focus, okay, and target and area of interest, but there's really no connection between the two. I mean, all of them, they want to produce the best students and so forth, but we understand the big picture. But the government schools, the private schools, they all have separate visions. Am I understanding that correctly?
That's absolutely correct. Yes, it's separate from each other. So they are like public schools, private schools, and international schools. So they all are different bodies, but however, their missions are more or less similar. But I would, however, like to add that they are most focused on sports and students' activity until they are seventh or eighth, and after that they have completely different, academic goals, I would say. So they more focused on a child's mental development and physical development until they are at certain age.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. In India, the Ministry of Education has given guidelines and it has given a policy by the name National Education Policy. This is NEP and it is implemented from 2020 onwards. And it is still being updated by the Ministry of Education, giving various guidelines for curriculum and how the schools will have to be set up and how the examinations and evaluation will have to be followed by the schools. Even for all the boards, we have different boards in the state, we have different boards which is national boards, and there are private schools which follow either the state boards or the national board. But every school has its own business plan, which will have to be in lines following the National Education Policy, which is not a business plan, but it is it is how the education should be delivered by the staff, by the school, and by the governing bodies of the school. The school will have to make its own vision, mission, and goals to how to take its business forward to make the school the best school in the place, in the area, to make it the students get good rankings, good education, how the staff will have to be motivated to get their
No, thank you very much, Coach Ashoka. I hear some similarities in reference to what's happening in the United States and reference to that alignment. So I thank you very much for allowing us to learn, for allowing me to learn as well.
Most of the schools in India, especially in Bangalore, I see that from 1 to 6 standard, they don't overload the children with writing exams, assignments, and all those things. Only from 7th standard, they start writing exams and all those things.
Coach Preeti, in terms of the social, emotional, and physical activities until the age 8, I mean, here in the United States, it's focused on a lot of literacy and math skills. And if the way it works here in the United States, if a student cannot read on grade level by grade 3, okay, that is a signifying data point that they start in the United States building prisons, jail cells, based on the amount of students that cannot read at the age of grade 3. Okay, because they believe if they do not have the adequate education by grade 3, that they are not going to be productive citizens, and they are bound to do something that is criminal activity that is going to put them in jail. Okay, And just to hear how in other countries, that's not really the focus. The focus is about the socialization, the social emotional learning, the physical activities, and so forth, because as a country, they have a larger focus on the athletics and the world of sports and so forth, and they flip a little bit later in the children's lives. This is all interesting in terms of how the various countries are actually working in their focus. We talked about these resources earlier, these financial resources that governments need to figure out how to provide it so we don't limit our students. What we're doing, we're limiting the opportunities that can happen by just cutting them off and then turning it over to them to try to figure it out. So these kind of things we have to start balancing out across our world, okay, so that everybody, we can truly be a global community and global society and be more competitive. So thank you, Coach Preeti, for those comments. And again, I turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Coach. And we'll move further for our question and answer session if anyone has any question.
Good afternoon and good evening to all of you. I would like to ask you one question, because right now we are just talking about the school leader. What is the rights and what is the responsibility? And if we are there, just go on to mission, vision, and a goal. So I want to ask you one thing. What's the goal of a school leader? Because nowadays the school leaders, they are not good. They are not doing their work in a proper way. They are just doing a one kind of a business, and they are just earning money from school. So the school, such as a public school, government school, any private school. So I want to ask you one thing. What's their goal and what's the responsibilities about school? If they will aware and if they will just alert about it, so what they will do?
Okay, Coach Barty, why don't you really tell us how you really feel? But you definitely laid it out to us in terms of how you really feel about what's going on. But this is a great question and seriousness. What you are going to learn over this program is what effective leaders should be doing. Okay, we have broken it up into these 6 categories of strategic leadership, instructional leadership, culture and climate leadership, organizational leadership, ethical leadership, and community engagement leadership. What I have learned in my years of education, you need all 6 of these leadership concepts in play, working in harmony to be an effective leader. There also needs to be evidence of all 6 of these components to have a high performance school. Okay, I know that we're just starting this journey. We're doing the first part is heavy on strategic leadership. All these components, to answer your question, an effective school leader must understand and must apply to be a highly effective school leader. So we are definitely on this journey, and every week you're going to be learning about these components. And like I mentioned, these are the things that you need to now, you're aware of. Is this happening in my school? Has a school sent out a survey to me as a parent, as an employee, gotten my feedback? Have they asked me or others to be a part of the conversation as they put together and looked at the vision and mission and the goals for the year? These are the things now you're more aware of. And when you say to make the comments, Barty, about the school leaders are just about the money, they're not doing what they need to do, you are going to know very clearly over these 6 months what should be happening and what should not be happening.
Thank you so much for attending today, and it's been a great session. All right. Thank you so much, Coach Edward. Thank you, Rambabu sir. Have a great week ahead.